I promise. It's going to be a lot better this time around.
I have no idea what to say.
Just say Cardon Ellis and then run off.
Okay. Tell me when. Give me the cue.
Right
Ready.
About 3, 2, 1. Go for it.
Join me in welcoming Ward Radio's Cardon Ellis.
All right, there we go. Okay, now we're rocking and rolling. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to our second presentation. I'm your host, Cardon Ellis. Thought I'd just do it the old school way. You guys missed that, apparently. Let's welcome to the stage my wife, my son, my daughter. My daughter's most stoked to do this, okay? But we're going to start out with some more giveaways here really fast. The beanies were indeed popular, okay? So this one's coming out. Man, you can't cheer yet for something I haven't done. Who was the first to sign up for a new Go and Do Travel? A new Go and Do Travel boat trip? You? That's not a far enough distance. Go. Get up, walk back there. Get up, walk back there. All right, now you ready? One more. One more. You good? Okay, awesome. Good job, bro. Good job, man. Okay. Second, we got a Warren Evan veteran shirt here. Let me see. What's the word, Dave? What's the word? No, we did Nehushtan yesterday. What's Hannah Telios mean? What is that? Yes, excellent. Good job. Good job. Don't steal it. Be honest. Be honest. Widow's Mite, my daughter's going to give this one out. Let me see. David Boyce's next blog is going to be what? 52 what? 52 dates in 52 weeks. Go give that to her, geeks. You can walk around. Then Ryder, let me see. You're going to help me out, Ryder. Here's one. This is a Ward Radio baby onesie. Who's pregnant? All right, excellent. Toss that one to her. Toss that one to here. Okay. Then Forrest Stripling Boomer. Okay, Forrest Stripling Boomer. Who's watched my show a long time? What was the name of my show before Ward Radio? Midnight Mormons. You did that one. Ryder, toss that one to that guy in the blue. And then the last one. Oh, that's it? Is that it? Okay, cool. We're off. Awesome. Oh, there's a tie? You just get it for being enthusiastic. Okay, awesome. Woo! Look at that timing. That was pretty awesome. It's almost as though it was meant to be. See what you did, Greg? See what you did? All right, first things first. Can I get a water, too, Brittany? Can you score me one of those? Hey, Bird, can you score me an agüita? I'm going to die up here. Little bit of house cleaning here. We had a great presentation this morning between 8 and 9:30 with Thomas and Ben Lumberg of Gathering Israel. That was pretty awesome. Where are they? Thomas, Ben, where are you guys? Hey, what's going on? Those two guys right there start an organization called Gathering Israel that is phenomenal and awesome. I'm very happy to be a part of it. We had a great presentation this morning, but a lot of you guys said you didn't know about it. So I know it's a crime, isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Go talk to Brian, and I'm going to go with you. What'd you say? You know, the complaint box, it's in back, next to Brian. No, I'm just kidding. So anyway, some people said they didn't hear about it, even though I heard Greg talk about it yesterday, so shame on you for not coming or listening to the bishop when he does ward announcements and then saying you didn't know about the potluck. But if you guys have any questions for Ben or Thomas, they're actually going to be available after this as well, and definitely a worthwhile organization to put any time or energy or funds that you have towards gathering Israel into. So they'll be meeting with us afterwards. Also, thank you, Jacob Hansen, for not sucking yesterday. That was really good. Where is he? No, just kidding. Actually, all joking aside, I am very, very grateful to be friends with all these guys, and I wanted to give a thank you to Jacob, Stick of Joseph, Dave Butler, Dave Boyce, Greg Mattson, and all of you Wavemakers for very specific reasons. You guys have no idea how awesome it is being friends with Jacob Hansen.
Where's Jasmine? Yeah, exactly.
No, priesthood? Please, what, are we doing this? I am reversing the trend of 200 years of anti-male bigotry by specific, no, I'm just kidding. Actually, honestly, the line got really long and then I had to delete some, and I accidentally deleted Jasmine. Also, I accidentally deleted my wife, but don't tell her. Yes, thank you to Jasmine as well, obviously. But I am super grateful to be friends with Jacob because I feel like I have a Calvary that I can call in when I don't know things. And you guys have no idea how awesome that is. Stick of Joseph, it is great. I have literally been at debates where both me and Jacob have told Hayden, boy, do I feel really, really glad that you're here, with his arms training. And Dave Butler, nothing beats the introduction to the Mormon zeitgeist than the term Wang Doodle, which I have now heard more than one person use unironically on this cruise ship. Raise your hand if you have used the term Wang Doodle since you got here. This is how the corruption of languages between the Nephites and the Lehites begins. And Dave Butler, thank you for starting this trend. Now would be a good time to shout out both my wife, thank you, I couldn't do any of this without you, and Jasmine and Neil Rapoli. We had the best conversation yesterday, and I absolutely love that I feel there's somebody that does it right. There's somebody that threads the needle that I don't, that defends the gospel without being a jerk. You know, I feel it gives me well, there's somebody out there that does it right. That's where Jasmine is in my mind. David Boyce, bro, we're going to get you a girlfriend, man. And it's going to be live streamed. And she's going to be smoking hot and spiritual. I hope she didn't go to the University of Utah. No, I'm totally just kidding. Like, half these youths like bristled. They're like, Ward Radio, unsubscribe. Okay, and then Greg Mattson, and I forgot to put up there Brian Mickelson. Put your hands together for Greg Mattson and Brian Mickelson. They put on a phenomenal tour. I feel so blessed to have participated in now 2 of them. This is a unique experience. I jokingly call it like adult EFY. And yeah, amen, yeah. Evangelical adult EFY, where we say amen in the middle of the amphitheater, all right? For those of you that were wondering, merch, that's available on wardradio.com. I get asked a lot about my beloved War in Heaven veteran hats, this technically was designed by me, but the idea came up, was originally by Jonah Barnes. They're super popular, as are the t-shirts. Sorry, no, the t-shirts is a Ward Radio hat. There's lots of different sizes of heads and shirts and everything, so I don't bring anything but examples of the merch, but you guys can purchase it on the website using the coupon code Wavemakers25, and you get the 15% off on that merch. So don't forget that. And then finally, also, this is going to be a little bit different. Do you still have your microphone on you? You do? Okay. I want to try this out. I've had a lot of people ask me during specific instances in my presentations. They want to ask me questions. And assuming it's relevant and it's germane and it's not superfluous, I actually want to allow you guys that opportunity. Instead of saving a Q&A for the last 5 minutes, which I actually had planned to do, I want to enable you to feel like you can actually raise your hand and just ask a question while it's hot on your mind and you know exactly what you want to say instead of trying to save it for the end. So don't say stupid stuff, but if you have a legitimate question or something that you want to interject, yeah, this is kind of a TED Talky thing, and yeah, this is a black box and stuff like that. But personally, I thrive off of interaction and also being able to answer legitimate questions that people have. And you guys, I've had such good conversations with you all on this boat that I thought, gosh, I wish everybody could just hear what I just talked about with the Johnsons or the Smiths or the Gallaghers or whoever. And so if you got a question, just raise your hand. Greg is going to pass you a mic, if you don't mind. Or you can give it to my wife. She's super helpful. Or my son. I'm trying to teach him hard work, but he's got an iPhone. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's what we're going to be doing today. So yeah, that's first things first. Now, wait, no, wrong way. It's doing it again. Okay, we're doing this old school. No. We already did the music. Stop. There we go. Okay, cool. So here's a little warm-up. I was going to talk about this yesterday. Do you guys remember that this is the show incident? You did it, you didn't? Okay, we're not talking about that. We're skipping right over that. If only 3 people clapped, I don't have to tell the story. Actually, it is kind of funny. I might as well just tell you guys, what's going on. I am here today because, as I said in my last presentation, one of my friends went inactive. It was a very traumatic experience for me, and I decided to start fighting anti-Mormonism, specifically the CES letter, which he had gotten involved in and led him away from the church. This led me to calling up an organization called Fair LDS. Has anybody heard of it? Back then it was called Fair Mormon, when all of us were apostates and called us what we were. But no, I'm just kidding. But anyway, it was called Fair Mormon back then, and I basically just said, I want to do a response. I'm a podcaster and a award-winning filmmaker that would like to do some kind of response to the CES letter, but I don't know everything about it. I'm very interested in a lot of your articles and your experts. Will you give me access to some of these experts? The next day, the director called me, and we began the process of what would end up becoming a show called This Is the Show. It was extremely controversial because it was it was Saturday Night Live on anti-Mormonism, was really what it was. Brad Whitbeck, one of my co-hosts, and Kwaku, one of my co-hosts, got Brad's wife, Riley Whitbeck, there in the middle, in one of the episodes to dress up like a Kinderhook plate and to speak like a Brooklyn Jew and talk about how, Joseph Smith, he ghosted me. He tried to translate with the other ladies, but then he didn't. He ignored me, and he never called me back. And honestly, it was really funny, whether we were making fun of John DeLynn or whether we were making fun of the CES letter or Jeremy Reynolds or whatever. It was very, very popular, but it's kind of a violation of niceness culture. Ultimately got taken down, and it had an acronym. This is the show. What's the acronym for it? Yeah, let that sink in for a second. And the only reason I bring that up is because this has followed me around. They say like Joseph Smith was a gold digger, and it kind of bothered him, This is my treasure digger moment. I'm going to set the record straight here before we continue. I remember where I was sitting inside the Provo Marriott as we were cleaning up all of the XLR cables, and we were trying to think up new names for the show, because actually what had happened was originally the show was supposed to be called Saints Unleashed, but Hayden had such a fun little expose on the origin story of Stick of Joseph last time. I thought, he can't be the only one. See that little thing up there that says Saints Unleashed? Originally, we had actually made the show called Saints Unleashed. That was my idea. I liked it. The whole entire set was built by me in my garage. We ended up taking it up to Provo to film. That was back when I used to film Problem Solver Politics. And we did about $15,000, $20,000 worth of filming, making the whole entire first episode. But before he did it, there was another little show. It was called Three Mormons that Kwaku was on, but ultimately they were changing that show to Saints Unscripted. Saints Unleashed, Saints Unscripted. We thought maybe That's kind of close. It's not really. The logos are different. We don't think there's going to be confusion. But as a courtesy, we reached out to the More Good Foundation and said, hey, can we call it Saints Unleashed, right? And they said yes, gave us their verbal blessing, the whole 9 yards. We thought that was good enough, everything. After that first round of filming was done, we sent the rough draft to them. And needless to say, we got a very stern letter, a very strongly worded one that insinuated there would be certain actions taken if we did it. So we had to go back and rename the whole entire thing, This Is the Show. And I remember, we had to give it a new name. And I remember as we were brainstorming names, okay, when we just gotten the news that we weren't going to be able to call it This Is the Show. We weren't going to be able to call it Saints Unleashed. We were brainstorming new names. One of the names was Salty Saints. We actually were going to use Salty Saints, which now, Brother Holm, shall we call him, and some of our other friends use. I didn't like that one because I thought it might insinuate the Great Salt Lake too much. And then also, I wanted to call it some other stuff, but John Lynch and some of the other guys thought, this is the show, like Brigham Young's This Is the Place. And I remember where I was cleaning up the cable, and I was thinking, okay, fine, we could do that. I'll let these guys choose the name. But I'm the editor, and I have to ingest all the footage, and you always use the acronym. And I remember saying, okay, no, we can't do that. No, we can't do that. It's not going to work. Well, why, Cardon? Well, come on. What does that spell? No, in acronyms, no. You don't use the T. So it's T-I-S. It's Tiz. Get your head out of the gutter. And I'm like, that's not what the internet's going to say. That's not what the internet's going to say. But they decided to go with it anyway. Within 24 hours of it being released, what did the internet say? Salt Lake Tribune comes out, and the whole thing is called that acronym. And it's chased me for the rest of my life, and it's not my fault. So, yeah, that's the story of that. Anyway, we're done. Moving on. Back down to business. That was the birth of Midnight Mormons. Here is my story. Not my story. What'd you say? Oh, sure. I didn't see anybody raise their hands. Hit me. Oh, what's your question? That's a lovely blouse.
Thank you. The thing I want to ask is, I may have missed an episode, but why is it that podcasters never describe the difference between polygamy and plural marriage?
We did in that video briefly, but it was taken down, and it was one of our most popular, and it was one of our most controversial, because we stuck Brigham Young's face on the rapper Jason Derulo's and put sunglasses on him with a thumbnail that said, "Mo wives, mo problems." So I can see why some more serious and academic inquirers that might want to know a much more erudite question like that may have scrolled past it, not realizing we were addressing that very topic. But I would defer you to the article on Fair Mormon about it, and I promise in the future to delineate the difference in a future episode. But it wasn't geared towards you, so hopefully you will forgive us. Is that a good answer?
Oh, that is superb.
Would you like me to send you a poster of the Mo Wives, Mo Problems thumbnail? Because I could
Please
make
do.
that. It's pretty good. Yeah, okay. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Oh, whoops. There's my reveal. But you guys already saw it now. The title of this presentation was not chosen by me. It was chosen by Greg Madsen. I said, he's like, what do you want to talk about? And then I heard this clanking, and I realized he was bench pressing while he was talking to me. And I was like, the only thing I'm qualified to talk about is anti-Mormonism. Clank, clank, 2 more 50-pounders, right? And he's like, okay, cool. Well, I could choose your title for you. And I said, yeah, go for it. I read the calendar, and it says, like, what'd you title it, Greg? The Anti-Mormon Explosion, which just totally makes me think of the opening of Terminator 2 by James Cameron, when she's holding on to the chain link fence and Los Angeles explodes. And I thought, okay, that's a little hyperbolic. Okay, we're not living in Missouri, 1838. But it seems to have gotten quite heavy quite fast lately, along the lines of an explosion. So yeah, we'll run for it. We'll run with it. Also, it's just a really cool excuse to include a rated R movie in my presentation somehow. So anyway, we're going to be talking about anti-Mormonism. It's really kind of one of the only things I'm qualified to talk about because I deal with it every day. There's so many people that are much bigger scholars on unique and individual aspects of our faith and our culture. I see a question there. Why don't you get her a mic while I'm talking about this? And it does seem like a lot of people feel, especially in the past 5 to 10 years, not overrun, but bombarded by a level of anti-Mormonism that is foreign to them. And so that's what we're going to be talking about, hopefully giving a little bit of the who, what, where, when, and why. And hopefully at the end of this speech, you guys will feel empowered to go on and face it and fight it and so on and so forth. So what's your question? Hit me.
Okay. We talked to you earlier in the cafeteria.
Yeah, something about rehab, right? Amphetamines are horrible.
Yeah.
Lots of water. No, I'm just kidding. What?
You would know. No. Okay,
I like it. I like it.
sorry, I have 6 boys, so I know how to banter. We were talking about our kids and how they've left the church and the difference between leaving the church and what the boomers grew up with and what they're facing. And so I think that's really relevant to talk about. And you made it very, very pronounced, the difference, because there is a big difference.
Yeah, actually, by a show of hands, who's struggled with a large portion of their family leaving the church recently? Okay. It's a very, very deep interruption to somebody's family life. On a scale of 1 to 10, how badly did it suck? 10.
100.
Yes, exactly. It was, by the way, sorry, I should have said stink. I grew up with an elementary school teacher. She wouldn't let me say suck. It was really funny. And I couldn't watch Beavis and Butthead or The Simpsons. Anybody else remember that? Yes. Yeah. Okay, cool. So, Mom, gotcha. But, did you just snort? I heard a snort. That was good. That was good. I am going to find you and I'm going to make you laugh after this. And until you snort again, I'm not stopping. Okay. What the internet did was unprecedented in American history, and I would actually argue that the internet changed the world faster than the Gutenberg press changed the world. And there is a drastic difference between the analog era pre-internet and the digital era afterwards, so much so that I think a lot of people whose formative years were pre-internet just somehow don't feel qualified or in the know enough on how to address their post-internet children and or not peers, but youth, that they feel not impotent, but somehow unqualified or foreign to a lot of the arguments, and that creates a lot of frustration. And so hopefully I'm going to demystify a lot of that for you in this talk. But yeah, that's a very legitimate concern. Somebody that grew up in 1920 kind of had the same childhood as somebody who grew up in 1930, probably kind of had the same childhood as somebody who grew up in, that was born in 1950 or 60, dare I say maybe even 70 or 80. But once the internet came, everything changed so much faster, so quickly. The ability of the generations, which had always had intergenerational conflict. We've always thought grandma was a little bit boring and grandpa was a little bit crazy, but not like we did in these past years. And our church was a little bit late to the game digitally. We were. And anti-Mormons got a head start. Also, unique to your situation, hopefully I'm not divulging anything too private here, this is the first time in church history where we've seen an exit to the right, politically and socially, and not just to the left. And Mormons have received a very, very rude awakening, especially in the wake of the violence of Grand Blanc, Michigan, and like how all of a sudden the right has gone like anti-Semitic now, which is kind of wild, We've realized, and we're so used to being over here fighting a lot of left-wing arguments, both socially, maybe even fiscally or whatever, that we forget that these people behind us hate us too. They just appreciate that we're the first line of defense during Proposition 8. But now that that's over, you know, and now that woke's kind of been defeated, it's on its heels, still relatively strong in Utah, Idaho, and Arizona. But trust me, in Los Angeles, where I live, where the precedents start and then the ripples go out culturally, it is not. It's down to 10%. It's fallen out of favor. It's not cool. That's going to happen everywhere else, hopefully within the next 2 or 3 years. But then we will see, like, holy smoke, we actually do have enemies over here as well that don't like us either. You're seeing a lot of old RLDS arguments that we didn't fight since the 1870s over issues of polygamy and succession crisis coming out in full force with a lot of the polygamy deniers or polygamy truthers movements. Now that woke isn't as popular, we're seeing the Christian right scrambling for market share. This is the first time that young men are going to church with their grandparents. Traditionally, women have been the churchgoers. Women have been the predominant participants in the North American church. Something to the tune generally of like 60-40. Books used to be written by guys like David R. Murrow, Why Men Hate Church. And now, seemingly, in many quarters, we've lost the moral rectitude of women, and there's men returning to church. Single fathers going with their kids, young men en masse returning to church just to escape the insanity of what woke has done for the past 20 or 30 years. Also, there's a lot of young people. Constantly, I deal on my channel with young kids. I am always trying to drive a spike deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper into the youth. Getting the kids at BYU involved, getting the kids at UVU involved, trying to show up on campus. Sometimes I just call people to ask what they think and what their social media habits are. Where's Bex? Where's Bex? Is she here? She's not here. Oh, these two people, Pete and Julie, brought a lovely daughter named Bex. She probably didn't even want to show up to the dinner. But I was there, and like the first thing I asked her was like, okay, cool, so what are your social media habits? Yeah, so can you name like the top 10 people you subscribe to? No. How much time do you think you spend on TikTok versus Instagram? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, no wonder she's not here. That's a good point. Yeah, you two, you're on my crap list. No, I'm totally just kidding. I'm totally kidding. But anyway, I'm constantly trying to deal with youth, and a very interesting phenomenon that gives me hope, and I think hopefully will give you hope, is this is the first generation that rebels against the chaos and the insanity of woke by becoming more traditional. Woke took out, yes, it's praise God. Woke took out the millennial, younger part of the Gen X generation, and half a Gen Z before people started realizing, wow, this just breeds chaos. I don't like chaos. In the same way that you guys rebelled against the Christian right by listening to the Beatles and by, you got to fight for your right to party in the 80s and, no, Mom, you can't tell me not to do my hair that way. I'm going to wear a crop top to the high school dance. Just like you did that to your parents, kids now are rebelling against what they see as the cause of this horrible student loan debt that stressed out their mom and dad and led to nothing but domestic discord. I'm not engaging in that. I'm not getting indebted 6 figures just to go to college. I'm going to a trade school. And also, all of this secularism, it's bred nothing but like insecurity in my life. I want something secure. And what's wild is I talked to a family who was actually deeply concerned about their son converting to like Greek Orthodoxy, which is like making this wild resurgence in North America, which has traditionally been kind of an evangelical Protestant place. They're making this insane comeback. Why? Because they're so socially conservative, and a lot of these guys are very vocal in their opposition to the vax and so on and so forth. So, kind of stinks when it's happened to you, but I have hope because in the words of Jared Halverson, I don't worry too much, A, because I have faith in God, but B, also, the gospel is all about creation, fall, and atonement. And I've always believed, part of the reason why I'm into anti-Mormonism now is because I've always studied it. And I've studied it as a way to get to know my faith better, because by proving contraries, you actually know better, more about your own faith. And from a young age, I was always interested. And I've seen from a young age that everybody goes inactive at some point, sometime in their lives. Whether they kept going to church and they just faked it and were inactive up here by being lazy learners and not very good members of the church and just went through the motions, or because they physically left the building and stopped attending. We have a faith of creation, fall, and atonement, okay? And the Lord will not judge us, in the words of Bruce Porter, until he knows that we have a full knowledge of the gospel. And the beauty of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is we believe in eternal progress, whether it's this life, whether it's the next, whether it's next year, whether it's 70 years from now, whatever it is, we believe in creation and fall and atonement. So I would say just worry, but don't worry. Atonement's coming. Live your life as best and as well as you can, as close to the Spirit as you can, and things will get better. If the gospel does anything, it tells us that things will get better. Okay, cool. I don't even get to go back to my slide. This is awesome. Hit me. What, you, and then I'm doing my slide. What's yours?
So this is just kind of a follow-up to what you've really already been talking about. Maybe I don't even need to say my question, but here it goes. Will Gen Z continue the trend of decline in art, science, morality, and culture, or will the rising young generation be the pivot from decay to growth? Your thoughts?
Okay, I would say no. First off, define culture. Gen Z is making amazing culture. We just don't recognize it. Let me tell you, the first time I went on TikTok, when none of my elder millennial and boomer friends even had an account or knew what it was, when it was an old app called Musical.ly, I was filled with hope. Because the vulgar and edgy and non-political jokes they were making a decade ago, boy, I knew woke was broke then. So we may not recognize it, but there is a return, and have hope. Also, some of that's tied to economics. This is a socioeconomic question. I can talk to you about it later, but good question, thank you. And then why don't you give them a mic that I'll get between these next two slides. So before we go any further, I want to make sure that I define what anti-Mormonism. The ADL has done us a favor of defining anti-Semitism. And I'm going to give a free t-shirt to anybody that can find the similarities between anti-Mormonism and anti-Semitism. The ADL free t-shirt for anybody that really fast can name what are the 3 Ds of anti-Semitism. Okay, hit it. What is it? Not discrimination. Close. No, it's delegitimization. Okay, yes, demonization, delegitimization, and no, not denial. Oh gosh, I'm forgetting the third. No, demonization, delegitimization. Gosh, I didn't put it up there because I didn't want to give it away. What's the third D? Come on. No, not devaluation. No, gosh, this is embarrassing. Look it up on your iPhone. They got 3 Ds. Can't believe this. I just sat down with a leader of the ADL in Israel less than 3 weeks ago, and I forgot the third D. Delegitimization. Double standards. That's it. Double standards. Similarly to anti-Mormonism, I have what I call the triple Ps. And shout out to Jacob Hansen that helped me massage these. Oh, yeah. Who got it? Who got that double standard? You? Awesome. I'm giving you a code. You're way too tall. I've got nothing on the ship for you. I'm going to need like a 2XL triple T. You know, I might have my wife sew on like 7 inches of extra material. So anyway, there's the Ward Radio triple Ps. I believe it is a public and persistent and purposeful attack on the church meant to erode faith in the fundamental truth claims of the gospel. Okay? And there's plenty of people that don't hit those, there's plenty of people that don't hit all of those P's, but every person that does, you can take it to the bank, is an anti-Mormon. When Joe Rogan gets up and says, oh yeah, man, Mormons, dude, they're like the nicest cult on the planet, and so on and so forth, that's not anti-Mormonism. That's humor, and anything pejorative he's saying is probably just rooted in ignorance, and you don't need to get too offended over that. While I am engaged in fighting anti-Mormonism constantly, I also know that you can't get too offended too easily. So if you're not hitting all three of those P's, it's probably not actually anti-Mormonism. This anti-Mormonism does lead them into two other P's, though, that I've noticed. Three of them, actually. Heavy use of pseudoscience. When you actually follow the science, science is in, all the science is in our favor. The more active you are, the better your life gets by almost every single measurable quantifier. Except for, ironically, there is a small correlation between a lower of happiness and the more children that you have. And any of us parents out there that have had more than 3 or 4 kind of know where that comes from. But it all works out in the end, so don't worry about it, and have more than you can afford faster than you can. But other than that, all the science is in our favor. And it makes one paltry and plug ugly, which were the only negative words that I could also find with Erica Hansen in the book of synonyms that started with a P. So it's the public and persistent purposeful attacks on the church. And we're going to give you a brief history of anti-Mormonism here. I actually had a chance to record a video for the foreword of a book that was sold by the Stick of Joseph called the Antichrist Playbook, that talks a little bit about, oh, you've read it. Yes. Oh, good. Awesome. Sweet. I was thinking about bringing books to throw out, but then I realized they're kind of like dangerous UFOs once you launch them. And I didn't have a way of like softening the edges. So no free books there, but talk to Hayden. There might be a coupon code. I don't know. We'll find out. But anyway, we're just going to watch a little video where I briefly define a brief history of, oh, come on. No. Yes, there it is.
Back to problem number 1. When I was a kid, I can't believe I'm even saying this now, most anti-Mormons were interdenominational. It was coming from overzealous evangelical or Protestant ministers hell-bent on exposing Mormonism's corruptions of Scripture, apparently in the absence of anything else more constructive to do. Like a dragon slayer flaunts his job title, they proudly embrace their anti-Mormonism almost like a badge of honor, even titling books and college courses at their divinity schools as Against Mormons or Witnessing to Mormons. This loud and proud anti-Mormonism was annoying, but served a very useful signaling function. You knew who the enemy was because he was wearing the Mormons Are Going to Hell t-shirt, and the signed copy of the Wavemakers was on his shelf. Whether it was of the violent breed in the 19th century that burnt buildings and signed Mormon extermination orders, or just the annoying breed in the 20th century that hired conference protesters to make noise outside of our chapels, the term anti-Mormon went hand in hand with Christian or evangelical or Protestant, and generally implied some other kind of church membership. That all changed in the 21st century. 21st century anti-Mormonism is almost completely atheistic and uses the doctrine of the church against itself, exploiting the social weaknesses of the church culture. Many anti-Mormons even purposefully maintain their membership in the church as long as they can to do as much damage from within as possible. Unlike the overt conference protesters standing outside the chapels, or the mega churches blaring anti-Mormon sermons in their rock concerts masquerading as worship services, the modern anti-Mormon is far more covert, smarter, more efficient, because he makes the church work against itself. If you're an atheistic cultural Marxist who hates the patriarchy, gender norms, traditional marriage, and, well, anything traditional, what is more effective? Putting on your anti-Mormon t-shirt and fedora to go protesting outside the chapel, or putting on your shirt and tie and walking inside the chapel and saying, if you don't accept transgender temple ceilings, then you are hateful, and I don't feel welcome here, and my friends will hurt themselves. If you put on the anti-Mormon t-shirt and fedora, you might accidentally break a sweat while protesting, out yourself as an anti-Mormon to older friends and colleagues, and waste a Sunday morning you could have spent doing something far more productive. like advocating for cultural Marxism online to the younger generation. Whereas, if you skip the protesting, put on a collared shirt and tie, and go to church on Sunday, you can be far more effective. You can take whatever flavor of social progressivism is popular that week, sprinkle in a few nebulous Bible verses, and rebrand your attacks against traditional family, faith, or Christianity as real Christianity itself. You get to be invited on all the anti-Mormon cultural Marxist podcasts and symposiums without worrying about excommunication, because your parents and your bishop most likely don't even have social media accounts, and they're swamped with the quotidian affairs of the church anyway. You're a man who can literally serve two masters. This is a lot better because you never have to break a sweat in the air-conditioned chapel. Your fedora is spared the sweat stains, and you are never outed as an anti-Mormon in front of friends and colleagues. You can instead rebrand yourself as a, quote, progressive Mormon, end quote, and pat yourself on the back and maybe even charge a little bit of money every time someone leaves the church, because you don't just ruin their faith and help them destroy half of their human relationships. No, you help them deconstruct their faith and navigate a faith crisis. You're not an antagonist, but a hero. You're not tearing down the church, but just helping it be more inclusive and modern. And who does not want to be inclusive and modern? That sounds uncool at best and bigoted at worst. That's where problem number 2 comes in. Basically, we are seeing the pride cycle in real time. There's a new golden calf in town. Obviously, there are individual exceptions, but by and large, Mormons are wealthy. God's revelation in the first vision, Joseph Smith's leadership, and Brigham Young's expansion worked. It created an empire of the West, able to endure anything Mother Nature, the U.S. government, and the wild, wild West could throw at it. But wealth has proven our weakness. Where our ancestors had to fight famine and pray for rain, we have canals and bishop storehouses. While our forefathers had to sacrifice family heirlooms to build the temple and travel days to make it to conference, we get to stream it in our pajamas and pause the prophet. I mean, the president of the church, of course, because the microwave just finished warming up our hot pocket. In our wealth, our Sunday school lessons have atrophied into LDS feelings barn. Our religious education has dwindled into chicken noodle soup for the soul, and the signaling function of spirituality has become nothing more than pleasant vocal tones, dress, and suburban niceness. In niceness culture, speaking an abhorrent lie softly with a euphemistic smile is better than speaking an obvious truth boldly. The God of niceness culture is a jealous God and will not be mocked, and they/them only has one commandment: thou shalt not make anyone uncomfortable, not even the devil himself. And third wave anti-Mormons know exactly how to exploit this. This sounds hyperbolic, but it's not. This third wave of anti-Mormonism is effective and ubiquitous. Does this mean we initiate purity tests, start policing social media profiles, and interview every person who has yet to gain a testimony of every verse in Scripture? No way. That would be antithetical to our, dare I say, codified doctrine. What it really means is we all take our religious education a little more seriously and purchase a few copies of this book for our friends and learn to recognize the modes and methods of those who want to destroy faith. And Jeff is our champion.
Okay. That's the Antichrist playbook. Now, we end at 4:45 and not 5. Oh, I'm going to have to burn through so much in 3 minutes, but that's fine. We can do this. We can do this. So, I'm going to have to get your question later. Basically, that video was recorded about a year ago, okay? And a year ago, we were mostly fighting secularism. We were mostly fighting arguments from the political and the social left. This was really before right-wing anti-Mormonism had definitely ebbed and flowed to being a much bigger problem in our lives. Who here has seen somebody in their families leave typically to what we would consider the political and the social left? Okay. There's a new sheriff in town, though, after that sheriff was recorded, who's now seeing oddly people leaving to the right out of their families. It's a minority, but a growing trend, and it is indeed disturbing. So it is enabled by two problems in our culture, and I'm going to skip right to the last slide here. We now have to ask ourselves, how do we defend our families and ourselves against this?
Okay, what do we do? Well, there's two problems. One is our niceness culture and a new social media-driven form of anti-Mormonism. Who defends us? Let me tell you, nobody's coming to save you. Here's a clue. It's not the church. Sometimes people think it's us, but that's not a good answer either. It really has to be you guys. Nobody beats anti-Mormons right now in terms of statistics. I'll share this with you later, except for the church's comedy, believe it or not. Okay? Look at that video. The most successful channel in Mormonism, the only one that beats the top two anti-Mormons is actually Studio C. And I think that's actually a massive, massive dub and tells us exactly kind of what is the path forward and how to fight. Old dogs can learn new tricks. The proof of that is the Ward Radio women. They're the nicest, kindest, non-combative people on earth. But now let me tell you, they pack a punch. And that's where the role of humor comes in. Unfortunately, I can't play this video because we're going to have to go. But in a nutshell, John Cleese tells a joke that I think is very demonstrative of how we can fight anti-Mormonism in our lives, and I hope you take this home with you. What is the most unoffensive joke that you've ever heard in your life? Why the chicken crossroads? No, actually, PETA would have a heyday with that. No, it's actually, how do you make God laugh? The most inclusive joke of the planet is, how do you make God laugh? You tell him your plans. But at the end of the day, that in of itself is a small blasphemy. We view it as inoffensive because the first person that it's offending is actually not in the room with us. It is God himself. But if you actually analyze that joke, it is at the expense of somebody, God himself. Now, he's fine. I'm sure he can handle it. I'm not trying to call you blasphemous. But it does mean that humor in and of itself is a small criticism. And in our wealth, in our pride cycle, we have developed a suburban niceness culture that we often mistake for spirituality. And the lack of contention is not by pure definition righteousness. Sometimes we have to contend for the faith. It is worth contending for the faith. And I would argue that humor is a good first step towards approaching our brother. Matthew 18, 15 or 18 says, if you have a problem with your brother, first approach him in private. Second, come with a friend. Out of 2 or 3 witnesses, the truth established. Third, come with a church. I don't think you need to come with a church or your family first, but humor is a good first step. Now, unfortunately, we're out of time. I really look forward to talking with any of you guys, answering these questions afterwards. We will be in the Hudson Room, and I will be meeting you there. That's all I got for today. Thank you.